Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me. In my series Freemasonry and Satanism, a video series I started in 2013 September, and did book reviews, Freemasonry and Satanism book reviews. So I published the book reviews 1 to 25, and then somebody suggested I should continue on. Went up to 50, went up to 100, went up to 200, and I'm pretty close to 300. This is 287, Freemasonry and Satanism book review 287. And I've been reading this book pretty much all of this year. Nice thick book. I just haven't gotten around to making a video yet. You can see my little markers in there where I highlight pages. But Orgone, Reich, if I'm saying the name right, and Eros, Wilhelm Reich, Theory of Life Energy by Edward Mann, M-A-N-N. So Wilhelm Reich came from Europe, around Germany, went to New York, and studied with, I think, Carl Jung, the psychologist, and other people, and was a doctor, a psychologist, a scientist, an inventor, quite a smart guy. And to give you the short story before I start reading it, one of the inventions he came up with was a box called a Orgone chamber, and I think some kind of blankets with different layers of materials. So what they did is they took a sheet of metal, steel, and put plywood or wood on each side like a sandwich. And apparently it was an enclosed box. There was some holes so air could get in. But the steel sandwiched on the inside and the outside with wood apparently allowed the transmissions of certain kind of energies that could heal people miraculously. Heal people from things doctors couldn't cure. The Orgone. So apparently there's this energy in the world all around us that is supposed to bathe us, permeate our world, the grass, the trees, the bugs, the bees, everything, the water, the fish. And it's the life energy that keeps everything alive and healthy. Orgone. So anyways, he was quite successful, but as even what's happening today with the coronavirus, there were powers that be that didn't want William Reich's research to be shared with the rest of the world. So they harassed him, eventually prosecuted him. After persecuting him, torturing him, badgering him for quite a while, they finally got him in court, and he wasn't putting up with it, and the judge threw him in jail, where he eventually died. And then apparently the FBI, CIA, etc., they raided his business facility, his house, took all of his books and burned everything, so they say. So this Orgone energy that apparently can heal people in his Orgone chamber. You can look this stuff up. I'm giving you the simplistic story here. A steel box lined with wood on the inside and outside. So apparently the energies could permeate into the chamber and then bounce around inside. So it was called an Orgone accumulator. Steel laden with wood on the inside and outside was an Orgone accumulator, and people would go sit inside and get cured of ailments, diseases that they couldn't find solutions for anywhere else. And apparently he was into things that Freud and Carl Jung and other people were into. I don't want to say secret societies. I don't know enough about the man to get that detailed. But definitely involved with people who were into the occult, etc. So what do the higher powers know that the rest of us do not know? And what do the higher powers know today that the rest of us probably should know? There's a lot of doctors out there right now talking about the coronavirus is a fraud. People are dying, but apparently there are a lot of shenanigans going on behind the scenes. If you listen to any of these leaders or news announcers talking about the deaths, they always say underlying conditions, elderly people. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, somebody's trying to get rid of the older people, people who would normally die anyways from the flu or heart attack or whatever, because they are aging and other ailments. But Dr. Rashad Buttar, Thomas Cohen, Andrew Kaufman, Shiva Ayadara, Judy Mikovits, Dr. Mercola, Scott Jensen, Bukaset. There's all these doctors on video shows on the internet and having their own websites and publishing books and sharing the information, that there seems to be something amiss about this whole world shutdown. And I only can say to that, you think? A whole world shut down and masses of people dying in Ecuador and other places, hot spots in New York and Italy. And then again, we have a lot of people exposing the fact that a virus is not bacteria. It's not a living organism that you can catch from somebody else. It's a toxin released from the cells of our bodies. And that's from me listening to all these guys. And other people, Richie from Boston and many others, Max Egan and Dane Wigington, Deborah Traveris, and many more. So I am of the opinion that people are dying. And I think it's this world lockdown pretty much tells all. And they're talking about a second wave with these pundits on some of the news programs on the internet and on the news, that back in the days of the Spanish flu, which wasn't Spanish, apparently they had a wave of people dying from the so-called virus. And then they had a second bigger wave. So they're saying now that some of these people talking on the videos, that a lot of people are protesting and wanting to go back to work. And apparently some people are saying that these people are falling into the hands of the people who seem to have brought about the first wave. Got the wrong hand here. The first small wave, so they can have the bigger second wave. And blame it on the people because they wanted to go back to work and not become homeless, destitute, broke, businesses shutting down, fighting for their lives. So I'm listening to all these people like I normally do. I've read a lot of books. I've published a lot of videos on the dumping of chemicals in the sky, maybe biologicals, etc. And I've published Freemasonry and Satanism videos on books about the government testing biological weapons, I guess you want to call it, biological viruses, plagues, flus, on people intentionally. And Leonard Horowitz, AIDS and Ebola, Leonard Cole, experimentation done by the military, and so many other book reviews. This is 287, believe it or not. And so it just seems that we, the people, need to wake up to reality. And apparently, if you talk about these things I'm talking about, or you know, we free people on the planet should be able to watch and listen to doctors, professionals, famous people, well known, plenty of credentials, and not fear having our being persecuted, prosecuted, like William Wright and many others, and like in the case of President John Kennedy, assassinated. In his famous speech days before his assassination, he said, in America, secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life, and I intend to expose them. And what did that get him? So you can look up on the internet President John Kennedy's famous speech. And then another one, Benjamin Friedman, a well-known, intelligent Jewish man, gave a famous speech in the Waldorf Hotel on the internet, Benjamin Friedman's famous speech. And so much more evidence that, and the politicians themselves are saying it, even the Pope and the Vatican is saying it. They want a global world order, a global world currency, and a one world global religion. And they all discuss, even including the United Nations, they want to depopulate the planet. They believe there's too many people and the planet is going to self-destruct because too many people are polluting it. And if you look at the newspapers or the press releases on the internet, you'll see all these advertisements that look how beautiful the sky is over Las Vegas, Phoenix, LA, and the waterways in Italy, and the national parks are so pristine that even a lone coyote is basking in the sun right on the middle of the road because there's no humans. So you put all this together, and then you got all of the debate about 5G and the dangers, and we all know that you wouldn't stick your head in a microwave oven or put your baby in there to dry off and nuke him, whatever, or cat or whatever. So why would we have all these microwave transmissions? And with all these doctors saying that they think it's a fraud and that 5G can cause your body to be stressful, and that causes your cells to release toxins. Those toxins are in your body, and we know what toxins can do. Toxins are the same thing as poisons, and people can get serious upper respiratory problems, as well as just falling over dead, which is what is happening. So when you talk about the dumping of chemicals, biologicals in the air, the 5G transmissions, directed energy weapons, and the desire to depopulate the planet, and the global world order, global world religion, which, by the way, is in alignment. It lines up with biblical prophecy. And since President George Bush Sr., you can go on Yahoo image site, just put in Yahoo images, and put in President George Bush signs Noahide laws. So apparently these are the laws of the anti-Christians, the certain people over there from a small country with a white flag and a six-pointed star on it are into this Kabbalah, Metatron, Lucifer religion, which is in opposition, the adversary of Christianity and even God himself. Look up Metatron. Look up Lucifer. Look up Baal, B-A-A-L. Look up Moloch. See the little owl on the dollar bill. The street plan for Washington, D.C., the owl. The Bohemian Grove in California, where a lot of our politicians and leaders have been photographed. So there is something to this worldwide religion fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And apparently with AI, artificial intelligence, and the surveillance system working all over the planet, and electromagnetic microwave transmissions, technologies, laser beams, dumping stuff in the sky, it certainly looks like all these things that the so-called conspiracy theory people are talking about, including me for the past 10 years, 15 years, and certain other peoples have been arrested, thrown in jail, killed, disappeared, etc., etc., whether it's biologists, banksters, and during President Barack Obama's presidency, a lot of the military leaders were forced into retirement. And so it certainly seems like something is amiss. So, you know, studying something like William Reich's material, sharing it, Orgone, chambers to heal yourself, a steel box. You can look this stuff up on the internet or buy the books. I went on archive.org and I found a ton of his books there for free, PDF and videos, if anybody wants to get self-educated. Maybe even build yourself an Orgone accumulator and pop inside and get super healthy and help other people. Don't try to practice medicine, of course. But Orgone, Reich, theory of life energy, and apparently the technologies that the elite have been developing since World War II and probably before. Somebody's planning a bad day for the world, which is already here, if you consider the world shutdown. You know, America and the world, 80-90%, probably closer to 80+% now, because we have a lot of consolidation of office supplies stores, building supplies stores, big franchise restaurants. So anyways, about 80% of the businesses worldwide are small businesses, like me. And those small businesses hire people like bartenders and people at the movie theater to hand out tickets, and waitresses and hair salon hairdressers and so much more. So 80% of the employed people are coming from small businesses, and most of them are all shut down, and a lot of those people were winging it financially, didn't have a lot of money. A lot of those business owners are elderly and were considering retiring, but those plans were upset because of the 2008 stock market collapse, which I believe was intentionally brought about because the government knew that many wealthy people retiring at that time would be a financial burden on the Social Security system and the employment world. So it kind of forced all those elderly people reaching 65, 66, and 70 to extend their work life another 10 years. So if you add 10 years to 2008, 2009, you have 2020, 2019. So a lot of those people, what I'm trying to say are, they were seriously elderly and they needed to retire, and those businesses, those owners didn't have a lot of money, and a lot of the young people today don't have a lot of money, so there's nobody to really take over those businesses. Maybe half of them will go bankrupt, which accounts for 80% of the employment of the world or more. And I've even heard things from these doctors and talk shows that even people in the medical establishment are being laid off. And if it's supposed to be this big disaster, why would they be laying off nurses and other people? It seems to me that there's this bigger game in play, like a chess game, and I guess we're all waiting for the next move. I think that if we wake up and people will share this information, we may be able to reverse the situation and prevent the powers that be from bringing around this Metatron, Lucifer, satanic global world order, and pretty much getting everybody microchipped, apparently, with some kind of vaccine that they inject in everybody's arm, maybe part of the get back to work requirement to make sure that you don't have anything. You need to be monitored. And so everybody all over the world is just laying down for this whole thing and going along. And I certainly am not someone who wants to stir up a lot of trouble, but I realize that if we don't do anything, we're all going to be cooked, so to speak. We're all going to be done. And apparently, if you look at the Georgia USA Guidestones, it says they want a population of 500 million, 500 million. So I guess about 6 billion people need to die. So if you take everything I just said, using up my opening for this video, 20 minutes, and then you read this book, you get a little suspicious about what's going on. And I think we're supposed to question things, even in the Constitution. It's a requirement that men and women rise up when tyranny takes over our country. We're expected to do that. But apparently a lot of people are confused or afraid and won't do it. And I guess everybody ought to know, if they don't already know, that nobody gets off of planet Earth alive. So I guess it's either, if people really want to live and get doled out some food, some morsels from the elite, and worship their satanic deity just so they can live a couple more years, I would say that's not living. So anyways, I was reading this. I've been reading it all year. Quite a fascinating book. Up to page, or I'm reading from page 213. But you can see that I've read everything here. And if I go back towards the front, the highlighted pages, somewhere here. Got all my markers there. Looks like the highlighter I was using is kind of fading. Page 48. So I've read all the way up there. Interestingly enough, when Mr. William Reich tried to get away from these people prosecuting him, he went up to Rangeley Lakes, Maine, and I'm from Maine, and I went out to that little valley with the mountains. Beautiful place, Rangeley Lake, and apparently he set up a school, a compound, and a lot of other medical people and other people joined him and were included in his experiments using the Orgone accumulator to heal people. And apparently people from all over the world were requesting his technologies and his books and studying it. And apparently nobody found out that found anything wrong with it, except of course the government. And even with these doctors, I wrote this down quickly while I was watching a video, sharing their knowledge and experiences and medical research with the rest of us, bringing into question some of what's going on these days with this world lockdown. This is April 27th, Monday, the year 2020. And I suppose we're all waiting day by day for what's going to happen next. And I keep thinking to myself, we shouldn't be just waiting around for the hammer to come down on top of us. We need to mentally decide to take an action. And of course, one of my actions is talking to God, getting right with yourself, understanding we're all going to die. I do not advocate any kind of hate or violence, even against the devil himself. Love is the answer, and apparently hate is the opposition of love, and they want to promote hate. We need to promote love and understanding worldwide. But we've been living under this tyranny for quite a while. World War I, World War II, so much, we all know, so many wars, so many presidents killed or overthrown and puppet leaders put in place. From Brazil to even apparently Australia, the people there are complaining their government doesn't answer to them anymore. So all over the world, and you got people running Russia, and they say that Russia is being seriously harmed right now with this oil embargo, and that can't be a good thing when a nuclear nation is being destroyed by these elite forces who want a global world religion and a global depopulation event. All of this again, I'm sorry, reminding me of the biblical prophecy, which a lot of people have made videos on, written books about. It's in perfect alignment with everything that's happening. So page 213, let me get some of this book into this video. In the middle of the late 40s, Reich collected around him a number of colleagues, including some 20 doctors and psychiatrists, and they began to apply the orgone. So I told you how to make an orgone accumulator, a steel box, maybe the size of a refrigerator, somebody can sit in it, and paneling it with wood on the inside and wood on the outside. Apparently it accumulates some kind of high-level spiritual life energy that healed people from all kinds of ailments. And then the governments attacked him, threw him in prison, confiscated his materials, destroyed it so it wasn't available to anybody else. Sounds very familiar from 1940 to the year 2020, 80 years later, and a lot of other people. There have been, what was one year when numerous biologists were dropping like flies, dying, and people were talking about it was just hitting by a bus or falling out of a ski lift. Somebody was killing the biologists, according to my research over the years. So anyways, Mr. William Reich was working with other doctors, and from time to time they described their results in journals like the Orgone Energy Bulletin, the OEB. Thus, Dr. Simon Trapp, T-R-A-P-P, reported in Orgone Therapy of an early breast cancer, OEB, early breast cancer, July 1950, page 131 to 138, how several breast cancers totally disappeared in about 6 weeks. And I've known people in my life, I'm 65 years old, who have had breast cancer. And here's this technology back there in 1950 that the government did not want given out to the public or being used for public health. 80 years, 70 years, 1940, 1950. And so much has happened in between. So we can understand that something is questionable here, to put it mildly. In the January 1951 OEB, Dr. Emmanuel Levine reported on the treatment of hypertension, biopathy with orgone energy. Hypertension. Apparently stress, hypertension, like microwaves, can agitate your blood cells in your body to release, and when they get agitated and stressed, they release toxins. The toxins can cause death and serious ailments and the destruction of the body with serious fatigue, poor thinking, anxiety, suicidal people, etc. So do you think in the past 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20 years that these black operations have been going on, well verified? I've made book reviews on some of the books. They've been experimented with some seriously insane things like MK Ultra, Project Montauk, experiments on people, torture and death and shock therapy, drug injections into people for some reason, there are some evil, evil people on this planet perfecting all of these weapons to control and destroy humans. Back to the book. January 1951, page 23. So Emmanuel Levine reported on the treatment of hypertension, biopathy with orgone energy, 1951. In an elaborate medical and psychological history, he counted how that the blood pressure fell and the patient came to feel much better, and how relapses occurred a couple of times, but after 2 years, all signs of the complaint disappeared. So people went to these doctors, sat inside the orgone accumulator, and even if they had hypertension, apparently even breast cancer, they were cured. Another one here, a physician who made the most extensive use of accumulators during this period was Dr. Walter Hoppe, H-O-P-P-E, of Tel Aviv, Israel. He went from 5 to 25 layer accumulators. So apparently you can take a thin sheet of metal and put a thin sheet of wood, and another thin sheet of metal, and another thin sheet of wood, and another thin sheet of metal, and another thin sheet of wood. So layers and layers of this enhances the orgone accumulator to accumulate more of this life energy inside of it. And this one doctor from Tel Aviv, Israel, went from 5 to 20 layer accumulators and described his results in an article, My Experiences with Orgone Accumulator, and in the Orgone Energy Bulletin, January 1949. So when you consider what happened to this guy, and his amazing medical cures, and the government destroying him, and apparently I've been photographing the dumping of chemicals in the sky since 2005 when I woke up and learned about it, and the insane thing of FCC, the Federal Communications Director, Mr. Tom Wheeler, having that video you can watch on the internet, that there will be no testing for 5G microwave transmissions. We're going to just go install them and install them quickly, tying that in with artificial intelligence and so much more. It just makes me wonder, or not wonder, but just be seriously concerned, which again I believe is our responsibility as citizens, to make sure that our nation and our world is not destroyed. If we just sit by and let them destroy it, maybe we deserve it. But I think one of the biggest things we can do is to understand that it is some demonic forces, and get in direct communication through prayer, meditation, with other people, communicating with God, to get a cease and desist of what these people are doing. And again, that's all in the Bible. They want people to wake up from the spiritual world. Okay, he described in a wound treatment, somebody had a wound, which the surgeon in a review of the case called a miracle cure. He mentioned successes in the constipation, angina pectoris, I guess that's the heart, arteriosclerotic heart disease, chronic bronchitis, chronic diarrhea, gastric ulcer, all these things claimed by doctors to be cured by the orgone accumulator, the steel boxes lined with wood. Continuing on here. Unusual complaints like inflammation of the eyeball, vasomotor disturbances, parodontitis, bleaching of the gums, eczema, all yielded after 4 to 8 weeks of daily irradiation. Some details of the last mentioned cases are interesting. And again, with the dumping of chemicals into the sky, painting the sky pasty white instead of the normal blue sky or the clouds, water vapor, I believe that those chemicals or whatever else they're dumping up there is interfering with the normal radiation from the sun, which, by the way, importantly, is also known as vitamin D. And if you're in Washington State, Seattle area, where there's a lot of overcast, a lot of people suffer from depression and other diseases for lack of vitamin D because they have lack of sunshine. So that's one of the things I've been mentioning in my videos for a long time, that the chemtrails and the painting the sky, blocking out the sun, making it blue, it could be interfering with the normal sun's radiations, which apparently, like the Orgone, because the sun shines on these boxes made out of metal lined with wood, accumulating the energy to heal people. So maybe if Mother Nature was allowed to do her thing, the normal way that God made the planet would heal people naturally. But I feel that we have been under attack for a long time, and even during the Industrial Revolution and all the factories opening up all over the world, in the United States back then, seriously, they were dumping a lot of these toxins into our waterways, and a lot of people know that this is true. So whoever runs this world and who's ever been doing what they're doing, they really don't care about we the people. We're just fodder and slaves to their activities, and they live like opulent elite and even involved in decadent, perverted activities, mentally disturbed people who even get involved in torturing and surgically altering people, and horrific things. MK Ultra, Project Montauk, I could go on and on. World Wars, 9/11, all those countries all over the world being tested on by experiments in Leonard Horowitz's book, AIDS and Ebola. Leonard Cole, an ex-military man, wrote about the same thing. Clouds of Secrecy was his book. So if you're somebody like me and you've been doing this research for 15 years and you know the history and you know what's going on right now, it is a concerning situation. Again, putting it mildly, but I'm not worried. We're all going to leave planet Earth, and I have no intentions of taking their mark of the beast or worshiping their Metatron, Lucifer, or whatever they named this deity of theirs. All right, back to the book. When the patient was 31 years old, the first indications of the present osteoporosis, stiffening of the right femur, so I guess that would be bone problems, stiffening, so were visible after a cramp in the calf of the leg, I guess. The patient complained of pains in her knee, which constantly increase. An X-ray picture supported the diagnosis of osteoporosis. So I guess it would be some kind of calcification of the bones and the muscle, and you can't move, and if you do move, it hurts like heck. X-ray depth radiation was unsuccessful. Further treatment was given up. The right knee could be bent only with severe pain. The pains fluctuated in intensity, but the patient was never free from pain. In this condition, she came for Orgone treatment. After 14 days of using the 20-fold accumulator, the pains had completely disappeared. And for the first time in years, the patient was able to bend her knee completely without feeling any pain. So why would they have destroyed all this information about this technology, collecting life's energy from the air in these boxes? All right, instead of these ailments, a thrombosis formed in the left leg, which forced the patient to use her right leg to stand on, which did not bother her in spite of the considerable physical exertion. And that's in the Orgone Energy Bulletin, January 1949, page 19 to 20. I want to try to find some of these Orgone Energy Bulletins. All right, moving on, the book here, page 214. And you can see that I pre-read all this. I've been reading this book since January, planning on making a video. I'm always reading about 10 or 15 books at the same time. I'll pick up a book and read 5 or 10 pages, and then I get bored and I go pick up a different book and read 10 or 5 pages and pick up another book or a magazine. So I'm quite diversified on the different topics I research. Everything from UFOs and aliens to the Kabbalah and world history, religions, and conspiracy, so-called theory activities, which appear to be conspiracy fact. The symbols and the stuff that comes out of their mouth is obvious to even an idiot. I mean, they say it. They say global world order. They say sustainability. They say climate change, global warming. They say all these things, pole shifting. And they leave out a huge aspect of our reality, that God's in charge. And if reincarnation is real, which it seems likely, we don't have a lot to fear. What we really have to fear is what we do. So there's an old saying, it doesn't matter what happens to you, it matters how you react to what is happening to you. So if they do bring about this economic collapse and there's no food and there's no water and no electricity and no money, the last thing anybody should do is going out there and harming other people, because you'll have to account for that when you do pass into the spiritual world, according to my research and the many books that I've gone over. Very important mentally. We do not have to allow these evil people to try to make us into what they are, violent, mentally ill people. We don't have to do it. I'd rather go away from this planet out with a smile and love in my heart. I can't say that enough. Probably saying that will get my video taken down. They don't want their plans to be disrupted. Dr. Hope's article confirmed Reich's findings regarding the prickling sensation commonly felt in the accumulator, the heat generated, and the rise in body temperature. So if you build this steel box lined with wood, apparently it causes your skin to prickly sensation, and if you feel a little heat and a rise in body temperature. Timely information or what? Knowing a little history goes a long ways. Especially the situation we're in right now, with a world lockdown, everybody under so-called house arrest. Crazy, worldwide. This is unprecedented. And you just wonder, they talk about this wave here, a lot of people are saying the hospitals are empty, but the newscasters and the elite people like Bill Gates and Fauci and all these other people are talking about a bigger wave, and then they have all these technologies to bring that about. I guess they don't want to be wrong. If they get caught in this conspiracy, maybe they have to take it to the next level. According to all these doctors and so many other people, Dr. McCullough, Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org, Deborah Traveris, all these fires and destruction all over the planets, all the books that are published she's brought out, and so many others. All right, Dr. Hoop's article confirms Reich's findings, Dr. William Reich, regarding the prickling sensation commonly felt in the accumulator. Suggestion was out of the question here, because many patients felt the prickling sensation without knowing that this was a characteristic reaction to the accumulator. The prickling sensation shows up irregularly and with varying intensity. Another striking phenomenon is the fact that the patient's face is often reddened when he leaves the accumulator. So there are a lot of people talking about the value of sunshine, that getting up in the morning and getting your sunshine is required to stay healthy. So I suppose there would be orgone in the air with the sun shining. Since he is one of the few investigators to use a powerful 20-layer accumulator, his findings are worth noting. Hummmm explained that the difference between treatments in the 2-fold and the 20-fold accumulator lie in the quicker and more intensive efficiency of the healing process in the 20-fold. In many cases, especially in the 20-fold accumulator, a feeling of pressure in the head appears, and in some cases nausea. So whatever this healing effect from the orgone in the chamber, it felt like pressure on the head and nausea. We had a woman patient who regularly, after 5 to 7 minutes, had to leave the accumulator because of nausea. In a single case, perspiration broke out together with an acute feeling of weakness, which, however, disappeared soon after the patient left the accumulator. The majority of patients feel rested and relaxed after sitting in the accumulator. Signs of fatigue disappeared. Page 22 on that book. Another physician, Dr. N. Wevrich, W-E-V-R-I-C-H, experimented with the accumulator on a number of unusual conditions, including diabetics. His patients showed cessation of pain from the scalding with hot water. So the accumulator, the pain went away after putting scalding hot water on them. After 15 minutes irradiation by an orgone shooter, so maybe they have some of these orgone shooters. Apparently Dr. William Reich did have this one orgone shooter. It was these long PVC thick pipes bent at an elbow with the elbow submerged in a lake, and the big PVC tube aimed up at the sky, a bunch of them tied together. Just picture a long tied together bunch of white gigantic PVC pipes, and then bent at an elbow on the bottom, and the whole elbow was submerged in a lake. They called it a cloud buster. Apparently it could do things to bring about rain or something. Interesting. Life energy. Makes you wonder, you know, why they persecute, prosecute, arrest this guy, and wind up killing him in jail, destroying all his books, all his materials. These are the people who are controlling our planet. Make no mistake about that. His patients showed cessation of pain from scalding hot water, and in the case of the diabetic, using the accumulator regularly made a normally tense person more relaxed and less apprehensive, less inclined to take additional insulin, and more able to cope with sudden outbreaks of emotional stress. April 1951, page 110 to 12. Owing to its considerable healing effects, the accumulator came into greater demand after 1946. An article by Miss Elsie Ohlendorf Reich in the January 1951 issue of the Orgone Energy Bulletin reports on the chronology and financial aspect of accumulator usage up to 1950. By 1943, some 20 had been constructed, mostly one-fold types. So by 1943, they had about 20 of those metal boxes lined with wood. Those renting them paid $10 monthly for the Orgone Energy Research Laboratories. By 1945, 50 of them had been built. In the next 2 years, about 50 accumulators per year were ordered. These were two-layer variety. This figure jumped to nearly 100 per year in 1948-1949. These were mainly threefold with a few five-layer ones. By the end of 1950, 322 accumulators were in use in the United States. So what do you think? Timely discussion book I've been reading all year. So I just want to say that in my mind, I have a quite diversified collection of books that I read, topics I research. So it allows me to formulate opinions with all of that various information. You know, what's with the people spotting UFOs and people having interactions with aliens? What does that have to do with the Kabbalah? Or manifested beings with magic, and all these people apparently into demonology and satanic activities running our country, bringing us death, wars, economic destruction. Just makes me want to put the whole thing together and try to sort it out. Who are these evil entities that are attacking we the people, dumping stuff in the sky, installation of microwave transmitters, and killing people? A lot of people mysteriously disappearing, dying. Legislation passed that they can abduct anybody they want to, and they don't have any legal rights to an attorney or even notifying their families. The future promises to be pretty uncomfortable. How's that for a word? 27 of these accumulators are given out free of charge. 11 accumulators built by private people for their own use. 20 accumulators were used at a reduced rate. All of these accumulators are still given out on an experimental basis. Every user has to sign an affidavit to that effect, and each affidavit has to be signed and the diagnosis filled in by either the treating medical organomicist, or in cases where the patient is geographically too far removed, the affidavit has to be accompanied by a statement of the physician, physical status of the patient by his own physician. January 1951, page 54. Guess I need to see what book some of this is coming from and try to get that book. In New York area, Dr. Seaman Trupp ran an Orgone energy clinic in which free treatments with the accumulator were available. Free treatments. By 1950, it was estimated that probably 1,000 people had made some use of an accumulator, since in many cases family members and friends availed themselves of it from time to time. While the income from the accumulators rose from about $4,594 in 1946 to about $23,000 in 1950, the total cost of the construction amounted to about $20,400. Surpluses went to the lab, where annual expenses for salaries, overhead, and equipment rose from $9,500 to 1946 to $21,800 to 1950. Research expenditures were not met by income from the accumulator rentals, were secured from contributions of co-workers, gifts by Reich, Dr. William Reich, general donations, and a lecture tour by A.S. Neil, N-E-I-L-L, founder of Summerhill. In short, accumulator rental provided only a part of the cost of running the lab. Dr. William Reich took nothing for himself personally. The whole operation up to 1950 was obviously quite unimpressive quantitatively, yet at the very time, the Food and Drug Administration, apparently egged on by some doctors and psychiatrists, were assiduously preparing a legal case against William Reich, the charge fraudulently advertising the accumulator as a cancer cure. Little independent checking on the accumulator's powers went on in the 50s, so they didn't want to do any verification or checking. Practically nothing was published of scientific tests except by William Reich's co-workers. Private individuals here and there built accumulators, but few kept systematic records of results. The only one of such investigations to come to my attention was from a small organization in Kenmore, that's near Buffalo, New York, by Tech Products, a company called Tech Products, T-E-C-H Products. This research team first read Reich material in 1953, and after a while built a 3-layer blanket and began to use it daily for 15 minutes to an hour, making careful checks on sensations and objective changes. So apparently they made a blanket with his theory, thin metal wire, maybe, a sheet of metal like a blanket, and then another sheet of a wood product or wool or something. So they made an Orgone blanket. Here are excerpts from a report mailed to me in the late 50s. The investigators were not members of Reich's organization, nor known to me personally. The very first reaction noticed in the subject was an almost immediately light sweat, although the temperature of the accumulator was never over 75 degrees, and the subject remained quiet and relaxed. Next, it was noticed that the subject showed all the symptoms of a cold each time he entered the accumulator. This condition prevailed for approximately 10 sittings. It is worthy of notice that the stuffed nose and runny eyes cleared up after a few minutes after the subject left the accumulator. So apparently getting in the accumulator, which would heal you, or the accumulator blanket, while you were there, you got a stuffed nose and a runny eyes. So it's probably our body's normal mechanism to release toxins and waste. After these symptoms failed to appear again, as stated at the end of 10 sessions, the subject's back became red at each session. So after you were cured, you didn't need it anymore. If you went inside there, the people's backs were getting red, finally retaining a dark, flushed appearance as a sunburn. During this period, the subject noticed a feeling of extreme well-being and good health. An interesting point is that the 2 house cats would go to any lengths to enter the accumulator and curl up for hours. It made no difference if the door was open or closed, or if the light was on or off. An extremely interesting case concerning a woman, age 37, who on examination by her doctor was found to have a small growth in her uterus. The growth stabilized at a particular size for about a year, and the doctor then began to consider surgery as necessary. A 3-ply organic blanket was made, and the woman used it faithfully as a covering at night. The next 3 months' examination completely flabbergasted the doctor, as the growth had disappeared a year later, has brought no reappearance. An Orgone blanket. So you can imagine some kind of metal cloth, how they make that. And then some kind of woven wood or wool. and several layers and put it on top of you creates the Orgone effect, apparently, according to this. Other cases of effective use of blankets have been rapid regression of all symptoms of arthritis in hands, arms, and shoulder of a 27-year-old woman, removal of arthritic symptoms in atlas region of a 55-year-old woman, removal of a very large wart of 9 years standing after one 15-minute application of Orgone. I better read that again. Removal of very large wart of 9 years. So she had a large wart for 9 years, and she stood in the chamber for 15 minutes application, only one, of Orgone energy from a shooter accumulator. And I described what they used as a shooter, the big type, the big long tubes tied together. You can go on the internet and see pictures of this stuff, with an elbow at the far end of all of the PVC pipes or metal pipes. And all of the apparatus, the elbow end, was submerged in a lake and aimed at the sky, and apparently was able to shoot out Orgone energy, called a cloudbuster. So apparently they had shorter ones they made that they could aim it at a spot on your body to cure a particular problem. We made a small one, 1 cubic foot by 3-ply accumulator, and allowed it to charge up for about a month. So there's a way you could make a shooter, is take a 1 square foot metal box, line it with wood on the outside and the inside, and have some portal, some little opening with a tube coming out. And if you set it out in the sun and let it charge up for a month, apparently then you could aim that at somebody's ailment and heal them with life energy. So I wasn't trying to get off topic with all the things going on in the world today, but it does seem to me to be some connections with the people who control our reality and the things going on today, and the advancement of technologies, and the experimentation done by the elite controllers of our world in secret. They call black operations and black budgets, and all kinds of horrific experiments and things done to humans. And even in Georgia, USA, the guidestones describe the world of the future with a world population maintained. It says maintained at 500 million. So apparently they want to get rid of 6 billion. And then with the United Nations and the sustainability programs, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and silent weapons in a Cold War, Deborah Travers, and so many other books and materials and people out there trying to warn the rest of us that we're under attack by some very demonic forces, and all of this aligning with biblical prophecies. Even this one book I just got in the mail I talked about the other day. I need to read it and make a video. The Return of the Kosher Pig by Rabbi Ishak Shapiro, the Divine Messiah in Jewish Thought. The title alone just kind of just boggles my mind. Jews are not supposed to eat pork. So the return of the kosher pig. So the return of some kind of Messiah. It says it right there, the Divine Messiah in Jewish thought. Is it going to be a kosher pig? You can't make this stuff up, but you can go look it up. You can buy the books. You can watch my videos. Another one I've been reading lately is Finding Our Fathers, a guidebook to genealogy. Dan Rottenberg. This one here I've been reading. I told you I'm always reading numerous books. Another Phoenix Journal I got in the mail, the Rainbow Masters, the Magnificent Seven. Another one I just got in the mail, Skeletons in the Closet, Phoenix Journal. You can go look up Phoenix Journals online, 4winds10.com, and download these Phoenix Journals for free PDF. tons of valuable information in these books, about 120 of them. Then it also has a link on their website to the unpublished journals. There's about 125 of them. And then there's another link to the newspapers that were published from 1990 to 1991 weekly, with tons of information, my point is, of people trying to warn us about this future that was coming with all of these biological and technological weapons by the people who wanted this elite new world order, global world currency, depopulation, and enslavement. Putting all that together, this world lockdown certainly seems to be part of the whole plan. Quite concerning, to say the least. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting. Leave a comment below if you want to contribute something to my cause. rickmiracle.com is my website. In the top right-hand corner is my PayPal account. Or email rickmiracle@yahoo.com and tell me where you'd want to mail something. It would be appreciated. I've had 3 or 4 people make contributions over the years. I don't rely or depend on any other income, but the more money I do bring in, I'll be able to get more out. I buy these books every week. I'd like to have enough money to go out there and rent a place at one of those places where people do lectures and get on stage and share all this information with tons of people. Or if anybody wants to, you can, for $300, you can buy my entire collection of Freemasonry and Satanism videos, book reviews. This is $287, so hopefully I'll be up to 300 shortly. And that's about 600 videos, many of them 2 hours each, over 1,000 hours. You won't be able to watch all this material even in a year. So $300 for all of that, which includes a 4 terabyte hard drive. That's how big it is, which cost me $100. So I'm only selling everything for $200. I have to go buy the $100 hard drive. So leave a comment below. Please download my videos, put them up on your website, send them to people, send a link to people. Do whatever you can to get the word out, because the life you save might be your own, your family's, your friends, your neighbors. Rick Miracle reporting.